Good morning, everyone. First of all, it is a great pleasure to speak about such an important topic as resilience of family businesses nowadays. My name is Miroshnychenko, and uh, I'm research professor in family business and sustainability at the Global Family Business Center in Switzerland at the IMD Business School. I'm doing research mainly in family business and sustainability. And lately, we have conducted a large-scale study on resilience of family businesses, in particular, financial resilience of family businesses worldwide. Results of which I would be very happy to share with you today to give you some preliminary insights and to give you some hints on how you hopefully can use some of our recommendations or insights in your own family business, in your own company, in order to become more resilient in these unprecedented times of COVID or of the war, or generally about in times of hardship. So speaking about COVID, you know, the pandemic has hit us very badly for a long period of time, and many outlets, business outlets. Here you can see just one example from Germany. You have similar thousands of examples from Poland, Ukraine, UK, Britain, Australia, saying like, look, what is happening to our family businesses? Uh, can they really withstand all the hardships of the pandemic? Can they win the storm? Are they available to recover, to cope with it, or to sustain their businesses over time? So there was a lot of attention in press and also in academia with regard to the resilience practices of family businesses in times of pandemic. And similarly, same attention as I mentioned in other countries like Ireland, in US speaking Anglo-Saxon world, where there was tons of articles written and as we call in academia, not as rigorous as it should be about the base and practices that family businesses can practice in order to be more resilient. So here, basically, to respond to this call, you have a lot of consultancy companies at the same time who try to come up with their own research showing on how family businesses were able to fight financial hardships, social hardships, economic hardships during the times of pandemic. One of them was KPMG, World Economic Forum, and of course, Credit Suisse also was involved and has tried to understand using some data on whether family firms have been more resilient than others during the pandemic. In this vein, it's important to mention that why everyone speaks about family firms. Apart that we are now, the topic of our Congress is basically the core of attention is family business. It's important to mention that family business, apart from the fact that it is the dominant ownership form worldwide, it has some unique characteristics as compared to non-family business. As most of family businesses has this compromise between financial goals and non-financial goals. They have very unique internal resources and internal vision on how to do business, on how to do business over the long run, over many generations. And of course, when they evaluate results, they do so in light of not only financial earnings, but also of non-financial earnings, like for instance, satisfaction of family members involved in a business, or satisfaction of local community where this family business operates. So this kind of non-financial goals are extremely important for family businesses and distinguish them from non-family firms. And of course, they do play a role when we speak about resilience practices practiced in family businesses. So I just wanted to briefly share you and basically hear your feedback on our latest research dedicated to the financial consequences of pandemic for family firms, in particular publicly traded family firms. So basically, we together with colleagues, we have looked on the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the financial performance of family and non-family firms around the globe. So basically, we took the global population of listed companies and distinguished between them family and non-family firms, and looked on the differences in terms of financial performance. So one of the core ideas when usually we speak about family business and we try to disentangle the core backbone of this organizational structure, it is a long-term orientation. Most of your businesses, if not all of them, are very long-term oriented. You strive to focus and anticipate all the potential consequences of your business decisions as much as you can. You try to preserve this firm, your own business, your own passion over time, hopefully across many generations. And you also have strong emotional and financial commitment to the business as a family members. So, just to give an example, speaking another day with one of the Ukrainian family businesses who is operating currently under extremely harsh conditions in Ukraine. They basically said clear to me, look, it's extremely difficult for us to predict our business success over the long term period now, but we do as much as we can to do so. We try to keep as much as we can of our operations still running in those parts of Ukraine where it's possible. And of course they told me, they have very strong intentions to remain in a country regardless of the geopolitical situation, and hopefully after the war they can restore and expand their activities. So this is just to give you one example of another important unpredictable circumstances like war, which is, as most of you know, and very strongly involved in helping Ukrainian nation and Ukrainian family businesses. So speaking also about different types of family firms, it's we looked and we also paid very clear attention to family-owned firms, family-managed firms, or either paying attention to those firms that are both family-owned and managed, because this kind of different types of family businesses really pinpoints heterogeneity of family businesses resilience practices. If you just involved in ownership, you might be less emotionally and financially attached to your business, and therefore will apply to a certain degree some resilience business practices. When you actively involved in the management of the firm and take very strategic decisions, you will take even stronger steps in implementing resilience practices, business practices. And of course, if you're involved in both ownership and management and you have everything at stake, you will do your best, to preserve your company, and, in our case, in times of pandemic, and to ensure its success over the long term. It is also important to mention that when we speak about resilience practices in family firms, there are some substantial generational differences. As many of you know and have already experienced, if you're in a first generation family business, there is a clear role that founder plays in business activities, and many people follow this person. Usually this is a leader who is capable of doing big moves in all respects, either it's financially, non-financially, and typically it translates to higher financial returns. While as the founder passes away his or her business to descendants, quite often these companies in a second or a multi-generational family businesses start to lack this kind of capacities and capabilities that founder has. Unless they professionalize their management and include also professional CEO with professional skills. So this is another important dimension that I would like to bring to your attention before presenting our results. So how did we do our research? Just to mention you very briefly, basically we took the whole population of publicly traded companies worldwide, starting from September of 2018, sorry, until September 2021. And this sample includes both manufacturing, non-manufacturing companies, developed firms, non-developed firms, and of course here you have both family and non-family firms. So we are able to confront their financial performance um, as a result of the pandemic. So, and this is just to give you visually a picture. This is how Credit Suisse portrays in 2019 the global distribution of wealth. So as you can see here, back in 2019, there are a lot of colors, and Russia still has some green. So it still has some green colors. Nowadays, it's not as green as it used to be when it comes to wealth possession. Luckily, but at the same time. It also helped us, in our sample when we looked at it, there was very little data in some Eastern European countries like Russia or Georgia. So, but at the same time, it's not really important because most of the countries, important countries where family business and non-family businesses operate and have very strong role, and GDP of those countries are captured in our study. So what do we find exactly? What are the main results? Basically, we do found that financial performance of family firms were not affected by the COVID pandemic, during the period that we looked at, during those 3 years. So basically, it suggests that family businesses are more resilient than others, and particularly those family businesses who have very strong engagement in management of both management and ownership. So this is a very strong result with a very clear message that family businesses can weathered much better the financial storm of the pandemic of COVID-19. And we also found some variations across different countries and industries. In particular, we found that family businesses from Europe and Asia were the most resilient one as compared to their North American or other countries or counterparts from other countries. And also we found some variations across industries. For instance, family managed firms were able to better respond to the COVID-19 pandemic only in non-industrial sectors as compared to their counterparts in industrial sectors. And having said this, just to briefly give you some idea on what you can use in your own business in order to practice resilience based on the findings of our study and of many others. I would strongly encourage you to keep your long-term thinking active and to understand exactly at what business stage are you in, whether you are first generational or multi-generational family business. And if you are multi-generational family firm, you might think about bringing some non-family members on your board into your management, because it helps a lot, at least financially speaking. Cash reserves and liquidity, it goes without saying that you must have strong cash holdings and liquid assets, because when the bad times comes, you must be able to give back to society. Life is not only about receiving, but it's also about giving. So, and being able to sustain your company, your employees during tough economic times. Another important aspect that I would like to mention is investments in digital assets in your own employees. This kind of investments pay tremendously and paid tremendously during pandemic and will do so over time. So remember this, it is quite capital intensive, but they do have higher payback when it comes sustaining financial crisis. So, and last few aspects that I would like to mention are collaborations and partnerships that most of being located in a European context, in a global context, you have a lot of partners, collaborators from different countries, and it helps a lot when the bad times comes in order to sustain your business model, your activities. And of course, don't forget about having strong communication and dissemination channels. Going back to the Ukrainian example, many Ukrainian family businesses survive thanks to collaboration, to their partners abroad, and to their ability, to communicate strongly and to disseminate knowledge about their current situation, and asking about help, and asking about the actions that are needed for those companies in order to be able to survive. And here are some useful readings if you would like to go deeper in those aspects that I mentioned. And having said this, I would like to thank you all for your attention. Please feel free to reach me either virtually or via email. I will be very more than happy to answer all your questions. Thank you again, and have a wonderful conference.